Hi everyone, welcome back to another day of the Discover Jesus Challenge. My name is Edera, and today we're going to be looking at John chapter 9, specifically a story about a blind man. In verses 1 to 3 it says, "As he went along," this is Jesus and his disciples walking, "he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, 'Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?' 'Neither this man nor his parents sinned,' said Jesus. 'This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him.'" In this chapter, Jesus discusses both physical and spiritual blindness as well. And he says a lot about how we have this tendency to think that we can see or understand everything that's going on around us, but in reality, we are blind to what is really happening behind the scenes. In this passage, the disciples, they see this blind man and they automatically believe they understand his circumstance. They believe that he's being punished by God for his sins and that he deserves his blindness. Many times in our own struggles, we can often think like the disciples as well. We think that we can understand every circumstance and that we know what we need to do to get ourselves out of every struggle. We think that God is punishing me for this or this other sin, and so now I have to work really hard in order to get back into his good graces. But the Bible tells us that God is not like that. He's gracious to forgive and he's slow to anger. And even though we do so many things that are wrong and we sin against him, he still loves us and he still wants what is best for us. Even though we know this, we can still come back to that point of, why is this happening to me? Why is this struggle going on in my life if God isn't punishing me? Why is he allowing this to happen to me? Our view of our struggle can become very me-focused, and we think that it's just an us problem that has nothing else to do with the people around us. But Jesus says right at the beginning of chapter 9, no, this man is not blind by any fault of his own or his parents. He is only blind so that the power of God can be seen through him and that God's glory can shine through the deliverance of this man. This is a very different way of looking at struggle than the way that we are used to. It takes the focus off of us and it puts it on what does God want to do through us. Our natural reaction when we face hardship is to close ourselves off to the world, to become very self-focused, to think that, the problem and the solution lie within us. But Jesus is saying right here that this problem that this man is facing, it isn't about him. It's about what God wants to do through him. If we don't take our eyes off of ourselves in these moments, we can often miss this bigger picture of how God wants to move in us and around us. But when we place our worries in his hands and we stop trying to figure everything out for ourselves, God can use that struggle to strengthen us, to elevate us, and to show the people around us how powerful and how glorious he is. The neighbors of this blind man, they didn't know who Jesus was before this incident. And the Pharisees that did know him, they were still thinking he was just some man, that he didn't really have any real power. But once this man was healed from his blindness, these Pharisees and these other neighbors could not dispute that somehow this man who had been blind from birth could now see. They could not dispute God's power because God's power is indisputable. It was shining through this man, and they could not ignore that he had been healed. He had been set free from this blindness. The blind man, he was obedient and he trusted that Jesus had the power to heal him, even though this had been a lifelong affliction. He could have refused to do all the things that Jesus had told him to rub the mud out of his eyes, to bathe in the pool. And he could have said things like, I've been blind my whole life. A little bit of mud and water isn't going to suddenly and miraculously heal me. But because he took his focus off of himself and he put his trust in God's hands, God was able to deliver him and he was able to show his power and his glory through the deliverance of this man. Not only was he healed, but the people around him heard of his miraculous testimony, and many believed that day that Jesus was indeed the Son of God. Today, God just wants to remind us that he is good to those who are obedient to him, and he does not forget about those who are faithful and who put their trust in him. However, we have to stop letting the size and the length of our struggle stop us from believing that God can and will deliver us, and in turn use that for his own glory and use it for his own good and use it to show other people his glory as well. We cannot let our own view of what is happening in our life stop us from believing that God can and will use our testimony to share his glory and light and to heal us in the process. But what we have to do is trust him and trust that he's in control as well. I hope this word blesses you today. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you tomorrow for the next day. Bye.